Okay, so with the newest Fantastic Beasts movie being released, I decided I will do the ranking of the Wizarding World movies. All 11 of them. So yes, I'll give you a little bit of backstory of my experience with the Wizarding World. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I always have been. Like, I love the movies, I love the books even more. Like, the books are some of my favorite books of all time. And the movies are also some of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I remember I was into Harry Potter since I was 7. And yeah, so Harry Potter is basically my childhood. Like, I was always into it and still very much am. So it makes sense that I'm going to do the ranking of all the 11 movies in the Wizarding World. The Fantastic Beasts movies, I don't dislike them as much as some people seem to, but I definitely don't love them as much as the Harry Potter movies. I do think they have some good ideas, and I do like the general ideas behind them, but I can't possibly overlook the many problems they have. So, in this video, I'm going to do the ranking of all the 11 Wizarding World movies. Coming at number 11 is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Yes, this movie, I like some of the things it's done. Like, I like the overall story. I do like the atmosphere of the movie. It's very dark and I do like it a lot. I like the setting and I do like some of the plot points. Like, I really like all the scenes with Grindelwald in it. I think he's very good and he's a very good villain, I mean. And I like how he uses World War II as a way to justify his want to rule over all the Muggles. Yeah. And I like the beginning scene of his escape from prison. That was pretty cool. And I also really like the mystery in a movie. But the movie has lots of problems as well. Like, what is Professor McGonagall doing in Hogwarts? Like, she hasn't even been born yet. And also, I really don't like the backstory of Nagini. Like it really makes her so tragic and makes her defeat in Deathly Hallows so much less satisfying now when you know that she used to be a human. And a pretty good person too. Like, I don't see a reason. Why couldn't she just be Voldemort's snake? Overall, I don't dislike the story of the movie, but the many plot holes and inconsistencies with the Harry Potter do bother me, which is why this movie is at number 11. Coming at number 10 is the very first Fantastic Beasts movie, and that's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Like, I really like the new characters, Newt Scamander and Jacob Kowalski. I think they're really cool, and I like these guys a lot. And I do kinda like the story of Newt Scamander collecting all the magical creatures. And I like many of those creatures. I really like how they give us more knowledge of the Wizarding World and the various magical creatures. And I do really like the final battle with Grindelwald and the twist of who Grindelwald is. And I like how it takes place in the United States and contrasts the Wizarding World in the United States versus the Wizarding World in Europe. Especially that it's kind of my experience. I lived both in the United States and Europe, so it kind of relates to my experience too. But ultimately, I do think the movie drags in many places, and there is lots of unneeded filler material. And there are moments that really bore me, which is why the movie ends up at number 10. Coming in number 9 is the newest Fantastic Beasts movie, and that's The Secrets of Dumbledore. Like, I think it's a huge improvement over the first two. The story is interesting and doesn't drag. Instead, almost every scene moves the story forward. I'm also glad how it actually brings back Jacob Kowalski for more, and this time he actually has something to do rather than being just there like he was in Crimes of Grindelwald. Jacob Kowalski is my favorite character. I also love the exploration of the backstory of Dumbledore and Grindelwald's relationship. And I think Mads Mikkelsen is a much better Grindelwald than Johnny Depp was. Like he actually feels more intimidating. Like, he really does feel like a schemer, like a mastermind, and he's so much more intimidating. So yeah, even though I wasn't happy that Johnny Depp left, honestly, I think Mads Mikkelsen is a much better Grindelwald, and I'm happy he's now playing Grindelwald. And the ending of the movie was pretty good, and the final duel of Dumbledore and Grindelwald was really good. Like, it wasn't the famous duel where Dumbledore completely defeated Grindelwald permanently, and I'm really hoping they do get to this point in those movies, but considering that the movie underperformed, it might not be the case. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the famous duel of Dumbledore and Grindelwald if we ever get to see it. Overall, for now, The Secrets of Dumbledore is probably the best of the Fantastic Beasts movies. Now we are getting to the Harry Potter movies, and there is not a single bad movie in here. Like I say, all Harry Potter movies are incredible. They are all some of my favorite movies of all time. Like, there is not a single Harry Potter movie I dislike. As I said before, I love the books much more, but the movies are also great, and there's not a single one of them I dislike. Not a single one of them. I all consider them all to be masterpieces. But some are still better than others. So, at number 8 we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And yeah, this movie overall is great. Like, the last act of this movie is amazing. But ultimately, like, the book, for example, had a lot of Voldemort backstory, which was literally my favorite part of the book. But in this movie, they removed a lot of it, which honestly made me really sad. Like that was the best part of the book, and they barely included any of Voldemort's backstory. I understand the movie works in a different format, but I wish they included a little bit of some more flashbacks. And the relationship of Ron and Lavender is the main focus throughout the first 2 acts of the movie. And while I don't mind the overall focus, I feel they spent a little too much focus on that romance and less on things that we actually need to focus on. Still, overall, great movie, and I barely have any negatives to say about it. Like, I was just explaining why I like it less than I like the other 7. Because I said, all those 8 movies are amazing. That's all I have to say. All of them. Coming in number 7 is, and that's a very unpopular opinion. That will be a very unpopular opinion, because I know it's lots of people's favorite, actually. Yeah, almost everyone I talk to, yeah, everybody thinks the best Harry Potter movie. Like, it's still a masterpiece, don't get me wrong, but for some reason for me, it's the most overrated Harry Potter movie. Like, I don't understand why it tends to be the most popular movie. And that's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Like, there are a lot more positives to say about this movie than negatives. Like, I like how it's much darker tone, and I like how it basically changed the tone of the movies into much darker one, and and there was basically a point where movies got much darker. I like that. I love the Dementors. I love Professor Lupin. He's a great new character. And I love the overall story. I love how we learn more about Harry's parents' backstory. And I love how we meet also Sirius Black. He's also a really cool character. But in the end, this movie is low because, honestly, I don't like how it removed Marauder's backstory. They completely removed it. No mention of it at all. Like, Harry Potter gets the map. We see Moony, Padfoot, Prongs, and Wormtail. But we never learn who these guys are. And in the next movies, Harry refers to Sirius as Padfoot, which basically makes a plot hole. It honestly makes me feel like in some ways that they assumed everyone who watched the movie has read the books, and that's obviously not the case. So the movie is great, but unfortunately the removal of the Marauder's backstory really bothers me. So yeah, Prisoner of Azkaban at number 7, even though that's a very unpopular opinion. Okay, coming in number 6, and it's the very first Harry Potter movie, and it's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or as in England it's called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, whatever title. And this movie, it's a great movie. Like, it nicely introduces us to the Harry Potter world. It introduces us to our favorite characters. Like, I love Harry, but I actually much prefer Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. They're actually my favorite characters, which makes me happy they got together at the end of all the books and movies, because I like both of them much more than I like Harry Potter himself. Yeah. And the movie, it has a great story, as I said, great characters too, and it introduces us to this wizarding world. And it basically started them all. So, and I have no negatives to say about this movie, honestly, none. The only reason it's here is because the next few are so amazing. Coming in number 5, and that's both the 5th book and the 5th movie, and that's Order of the Phoenix. Like, there's a lot to love in this movie. Like, first is introduces us to Luna Lovegood, and she's one of my very favorite characters in the entire series. And also, I love the story of how Harry tries to convince everyone Voldemort is back, but almost nobody believes him. And also, Umbridge, a very sadistic teacher and one of the most hated characters in the entire series. I personally hate Bellatrix more, who also shows up here. But yeah, 2 most hated characters come in this movie and book. And also the final battle in the Department of Mysteries is great, like how Harry and his friends team up and fight the Death Eaters. And then the duel of Dumbledore and Voldemort is great too, yeah. The death of Sirius Black is pretty sad, but also very important to Harry's character development. And best of all, it's the longest book but the shortest movie, and yet the movie is able to include all the key points from the book. It doesn't feel like it leaves out important details, despite the fact that it's the shortest movie in the series and the book is the longest. So overall, Order of the Phoenix at number 5. Amazing movie, a masterpiece. It just shows how the next 4 are even better. Coming in number 4, and that would have a very high chance of being number 1 if they tweaked a few things. Because if they only tweaked a few things I'm about to talk about here, this would easily be number 1. Because it's definitely my favorite book in the series. The book is definitely number 1. Of the movies, At one point it was number one, at one point it was at the last spot, which is shame because how could I put such an amazing movie at the last spot? But honestly, this is very much like, which is why I put it here. Like, because I said, if they only tweaked a few things, this would easily be number one. And that's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Like, I think it has the best story of them all. Like, Harry being put in the Wizarding tournament against his will and competing all those three dangerous tasks. Like, it's a great story. I think it's the best story in the whole series. And also, that's when Voldemort returns, which is one of the darkest and greatest scenes in the entire series. Harry gets transported to the graveyard, and there Cedric Diggory gets killed, where Harry has to fight Voldemort, who gets brought back. Cedric Diggory's death is, for me personally, the saddest death in the entire series. And honestly, it also serves very much for Harry's character development. And now, so why is it not number one? Well, here is the thing. It also contains my favorite villain and Death Eater in the entire series, Barty Crouch Jr. Like, I love him. He's a very amazing villain and my favorite Death Eater. But in the book, he gets a Dementor's kiss. Here, they just say he'll be sent back to Azkaban, and that's my huge problem with that. Like, it wouldn't be bad in itself, but the problem is Voldemort breaks out all the Death Eaters from Azkaban in the following movies, but he never appears alongside them, which makes you question what happened to him. So yeah, that's my first problem with the movie. And the second one is also, like, why did they remove the Dursleys in the beginning of the movie? Like, it was a very funny scene we had in the book, how Fred and George played a prank on Dudley. But that's a minor thing, and the last small issue I have is the maze. Like, in the book, there were various awesome obstacles to make, like the Dementor, the Sphinx, the Blast and its Scroot. But here in the movie, they very much reduced and removed all those awesome dangerous and creatures in the maze and instead make the maze itself come to life. Which is not bad in itself, but I do wish they showed some more of the amazing obstacles they faced in the book. So this is why Goblet of Fire, amazing movie, the greatest book in the series, and if they just tweak a few of those things, this would easily be number one movie in the Harry Potter series. Coming in number 3 is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Yes, this movie some would call a filler, but I just love the mystery story of the movie. It's very much a mystery. And I love that, like the whole Chamber of Secrets story of being opened and then who opened the Chamber of Secrets and then in the end it being revealed it was Ginny Weasley, but she was being manipulated by Voldemort, or more specifically by his memory from the diary. Like, it's very much a mystery story and I love that. Like, it's amazing. Like, and the final battle of Harry and the Basilisk is one of the best scenes in the entire series. Like, so yeah, it's actually my third favorite book in the series, and the movie very much does it justice. Which is why Chamber of Secrets at number 3. And the last two are almost tied up. Like, they're both almost equally amazing, and they're basically one movie split into 2 parts. Like, they are basically 2 separate parts of the same book. Yeah, I guess you could argue all 8 movies are basically one movie split into 8 parts. But as I said, the last 2 are very much one movie, just split into 2 parts. But since they were split, they will be obviously ranked separately. So, at number 2, and that's definitely Hallows Part 2. yeah, like both those parts are amazing. Both of those. Like, first part is a setup, second part is a payoff, and it was a very amazing payoff. Like, every character gets to shine. Like, Harry finally kills Voldemort, and that's the final payoff we've all been waiting for all those years. And Ron and Hermione get to shine too. Like, they actually destroy together one of the Horcruxes. And Hermione kills Fenrir Greybag, the werewolf, after he kills Lavender. Even Ron Weasley's mother, Molly Weasley, gets to shine. Like, she's the one that kills Bellatrix after she tries to kill her daughter. And Neville Longbottom kills the snake Nagini. And Luna Lovegood is the one that comes up with the idea of how to help Harry find another Horcrux. Yeah, every character gets their fair share of things to do in this movie. And the final battle is just amazing. Like, whole movie is basically a battle of Hogwarts. But it never feels like anything is dragging. Like, everything is happening, and it's an amazing movie. It's the ending of the series we've all been waiting for, and this is a perfect example of a story having a perfect, amazing ending. Like, don't get me started on Game of Thrones. That was one of the worst endings I ever seen. But Harry Potter's ending was just perfection. The number 2 could easily be number 1 because it's just so perfect, but sometimes you have to put something number 1. And in the end, I decided that number 1 goes to Deathly Hallows Part 1. Just like Part 2 was a perfect ending, Part 1 of Deathly Hallows was a perfect setup. Yeah, like, when you have a good payoff, it's good to have a good setup as well. And Deathly Hallows Part 1, the setup was just amazing. Like, it's the only movie that doesn't take place in Hogwarts, which makes it pretty unique in itself already. And also, that's when the movie where Harry and his close friendship with Hermione really shines. As I said, Hermione might be my favorite character in the whole series. And she really gets a lot done in this movie. Like, she basically helps Harry on his journey with Horcruxes. Throughout a lot of the movie, they wonder how to destroy just one Horcrux before Ron Weasley shows up and destroys it. Like this movie, like, is amazing. Like, everything in it is perfect. Like, and when they're in prison, the Malfoys, it's a very dark scene, but it's also pretty amazing too. Like, and I like the return of Dobby. His death is pretty tragic, but it's also very heroic. And I love the visuals of the forest in this movie too. And the attention to detail here is amazing. Like when Ron Weasley's brother, Bill Weasley, shows up, it's as if him and Harry met for the first time, which they did not in the books, but they definitely did here. So yeah, just as Part 2 was an amazing setup, Part 2 was an amazing payoff, this was an amazing setup. Like, they're both incredible, but I slightly give an edge to Part 1, because in some cases, I actually prefer a setup more than a payoff. And here, we have both an amazing setup, an amazing payoff, or maybe I'm just putting it slightly higher because Part 2 makes me sad because when I rewatch those movies, when I finish Part 2, I'm sad that the story is over. So maybe that's really the reason I put Part 1 at number 1. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, Part 1 of Deathly Hallows is my favorite. But I love all those movies. Okay, so here was my ranking of all the Wizarding World movies. Like as I said, the Wizarding World is one of my favorite franchises ever. I love the story, the characters, the creativity that was put and how much love was clearly put into those stories. Yeah. So, I am going to do the ranking of the books at some point, but I have to read them again because I haven't read them in a long time. But I am going to read them at some point again, and I will definitely do the ranking of the books as well. And thank you guys for watching. Press the like button. Please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later. Bye!